our intrepid adventurers have met up at the Liver's Ruin. There are reports of travelers and shipments missing in the nearby misty forest and the surrounding areas. Our party will need to work together and be extremely diligent as they encounter not only natural dangers of the wilds, but possibly strange creatures from other realms as well.
Risden grew up in a small village east of Waterdeep, a long trade way. His parents were simple farmers, and he helped tend the fields and livestock. Risden, like his father, stuck out along the other locals as the only half-orc, but they were treated no differently, with one small exception. Sometimes the other children, especially those younger, would look at Risden almost in awe. He was green-skinned and bigger, though kids will be kids, and they got on happily. Occasionally, local trouble wasn't unusual, like any small settlement, but one goblin raid left a major scar. Late in the day, with the sun gone from view, suddenly light was seen from the fields. The crops were on fire, set ablaze by cackling goblins. These little monsters seemed more interested in burning everything to the ground instead of just stealing some livestock as they have in the past. Screams stormed through the night as residents tried to drive off the goblins and rescue neighbors. Risden heard cries from a nearby barn. Two goblins were cheerfully setting the doors, having trapped someone inside. He ran toward them and tackled one of the goblins, wildly pounding it on the head and chest, while the other creature fled around the building. Looking up, Risden saw the barn doors were ablaze. He needed to find another way in. Dashing around the side, he climbed up some barrels to a window inside. There, he saw a woman and two children. Hopping down, Risden hurried over to help the woman get the children out through the window. It's like this barn were made of straw, or this fire had a malice of its own, as the whole place was quickly filling with smoke and flames. Risden grabbed one of them by the waist and lifted them up to the window. The chaos going on outside was drowned out by the sound of the burning wood, the smell of smoke and ash. He practically threw the second child out of the window, adrenaline and fear fueling him. Risden barely heard the snap of wood before he felt the pain as the beam came down on him. Risden saw only darkness, felt searing agony cutting through the dizzying waves in his head. He could hear the woman, Myra was her name, he recalled. Odd how he hadn't recognized her immediately. Now her voice was clearer in his ears. She was screaming at him, grabbing his arm and pulling. He stood, and she was moving him forward, placing his hand on something wooden. "Climb up," Myra urged, pleading. Risden got up on the crate, felt the wall and stood up. Reaching higher, he felt the window and pulled himself out, nearly losing his grip. Coming over, he held out a hand and felt Myra grab on, dragging her up and out. She didn't let go, hopping down and helping him down, leading him away. The kids were ahead, Myra yelling at them to go in as they moved forward. They entered another building. This one seemed to have been spared the flames. Myra spun him around and pushed him maybe a little harder than was necessary, given his weakened state, onto a soft bed. And the pain in his face grew. His sight was gone. His face was scarred, but he was alive. The village rebuilt, and the people survived. But daily life was hard for Risden. A priestess at the temple nearby offered for Risden to come stay there. So over the next several years, he learned to navigate his new existence. He learned to do chores, studied what books he could, listened to the stories of travelers. He talked with his friends and neighbors, helped them in a new way. The kids were his favorite. He was told that his scars looked bad. In truth, he had asked, but the children didn't seem to care, not one bit. He was a hero, they claimed. Still, Risden also enjoyed his time alone in his bunk room. The darkness didn't bother him, of course. It was his world now, and the silence was so peaceful. He had taken up nightly prayers to Selune. He thanked her for the strength to fight back the demons in the darkness, the ones that wanted him to lay down and die, to devour his courage. But he has strength to fight those demons. A voice filling his mind suddenly one night. He's shown potential over the years. Would he take up Salune's path to cleanse the land of evil hiding in the darkness? Yes, he would be her mace against the foul creatures plaguing the night. Suddenly, his room came into view. He could see it all. It was different, softer, yet the finest details of the wooden table by his bed were clear. He could see again. Selune had granted Risden sight once more. Where once he had brown eyes, now his sockets were orbs of soft white light. She was even able to heal his face some. He had a nose again instead of a mangled lump. And he had a mission. It wasn't a clear destination, but there would be companions on his path east toward Succumber.
Ornhart, once a carefree and hopeful soul, hailed from the serene and picturesque town of Serpent Hills. Ornhart's life took a dark turn when the ruthless group of mercenaries descended upon Serpent Hills. Their motive? To exploit the town's resources and subjugate its inhabitants. In the wake of the merciless attack, Ornhart's parents were tragically killed, and the town was reduced to ashes. The surviving townspeople, including Ornhart, were captured and forced into slavery. Life as a slave proved to be a relentless torment for Ornhart, fueling a seething hatred within him. He vowed to avenge his parents' death and sought solace in a bottle, turning to drink as a means to numb the pain and drown out the haunting memories of that fateful day. In the depths of despair, Ornhart found an unlikely source of camaraderie during a chance encounter in a seedy tavern. Seeking refuge from the harsh reality of his existence, he stumbled into a dimly lit corner where a group of adventurers engaged in a lively dice game. Drawn to the thrill of chance and distraction, Ornhart joined the game, revealing a hidden talent for manipulating dice. His newfound friends, recognizing both his skills and the darkness that consumed him, decided to join forces. During a daring escapade, they helped Ornhart rig a high-stakes gambling game to outsmart a group of criminals, turning the tables on those who sought to exploit them. Bonds forged during this and deceit solidified the group, and Ornhart found himself part of a makeshift family bond by loyalty and shared struggles. Now, as Ornhart the Vengeful, he channels his rage and resentment into a relentless pursuit of justice. The once carefree youth has become a hardened adventurer, determined to bring retribution to those who destroyed his home and shattered his world. Ornhart's fiery resolve and the support of his newfound companions fuel his quest for vengeance in the unforgiving landscapes.
Meet Flynn, the fairy warlock. Flynn grew up in a small village. His 5 sisters and him grew up exploring the woods, helping the wildlife and wandering villagers. His parents always taught them to treat all living things with kindness and openness. That is the fairy way, was what his mama used to say as she was tending to some hurt creatures in her hut. His dad showed him how to grow just about anything. With a little patience and some water, life will always bloom, holding up a large, strange plant that Flynn remembers being the sweetest berry he had ever had. One day, wandering in the woods, his sister and him flew around large trees, laughing and seeing who would be the last one home before the sun went down, and their mama would shout for them to get their wings inside. Between the wind blowing in his ear, his breath, and the laughter, he almost missed the blood-curdling scream. He stopped, catching his breath and eyes darting, searching for the source of the sound. The scream erupted again, and his wings were fluttering towards that sound. He couldn't tell if he was getting closer or whoever was in pain was getting hurt more. He did know the screams were louder and louder. He rounded another tree, and his whole body stopped. There was his youngest sister, stuck in what only could be called a spike trap, her lower half trapped between 2 large bars with spiked teeth. He rushed to her, tears falling from his face. His throat hurt. He didn't even know he was screaming, pulling at the bars to release his sister. He got some give, and she screamed louder. Flynn, startled, let go. A loud clink echoed in the forest. With horror, he looked around and saw his sister not screaming, not moving. Her chest wasn't rising or falling. Ma, she can fix this. And Dad is strong enough. They can help. I will come back. I will come back. I will get them, and I will come back. He flew faster than he thought he ever could, whispering, I will come back, over and over, until the heat hit his face. Fire and distant screams filled the air. He struggled to breathe from the smoke. His village, his home, his friends, his whole life was covered in hot flame and smoke. He remembered his sister, how she needed his help getting to his ma's hut, or what it used to be. He saw a clump in the middle. He got closer and saw his mother, covered in blood. No, 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 no! Before he could say or do anything, he was being pulled back. No, no, no! He went to fight back, but saw his father in the woods. She's... No time. His father cut him off. The hunters are here. We thought we were safe. We got careless. So many questions filled his brain, but before he could say anything, a sword was protruding from his father's chest. Flynn, run. Fast, please. The hooded man behind his father took the blade out of his father's chest, and his father fell limp to the floor. Flynn watched his father grab his mother's hand and then stopped moving. The blade reflected the light from the fire outside. It was coming down on Flynn, and Flynn was welcoming it. He had lost everything. His sisters, his parents, his home. A wall of fire erupted. Flynn opened his eyes and saw the pale great feet.
What a shame. Such a nice, homely village.
Flynn was in some stone room. A room with a fire behind him. And a demon. No, a devil. Sitting in the most comfortable looking chair. Eyes black as night. Hair black, almost blue. It was long and pinned straight. She looked at him with a smile. He couldn't see much behind the tears. He didn't know if he was currently alive or dead, or somewhere in between.
Oh, dear little fairy, you are not dead.
Yet.
Goose flesh ran across his whole body. He was frozen from fear, on all fours next to the roaring fire.
I can feel your anger.
The voice spoke again. With each word, Flynn felt a little stronger, as if the words from this devil spoke was healing him from the inside and out.
You watched your whole family get slaughtered. Your little home, now firewood.
A small puddle was forming from the tears flowing out his body. He didn't even know how much water was stored inside. When does it stop? When does the dream end? He is going to wake up in his bed and smell the breakfast cooking, his father screaming to get the day started.
Oh dear, denial will only sink you further down. This is very real. They are all very dead, and this is very, very real.
He felt a hand on his shoulder to emphasize how real this was.
I can help. All the anger, all the pain. You can use that.
We can use that.
Preying on the words that were already floating in the small fairy's mind, his attention caught, listening to every word.
One pact with me and the power to kill these savages that have taken everything from you and any that would think about it.
Yes, he didn't think. He didn't ponder. All he could feel about between the grief and sorrow was anger. The demon laughed, booming in this room.
Just a signature, and the power will be yours to do what you will. But when I need you, and whatever I need you for, you do.
Flynn nodded, still not looking at this entity. He couldn't get the strength. It felt both wrong and right as to do what he was doing. The parchment and the quill appeared in front of him. He looked for the ink to write.
No need, just sign.
He began writing his name. Pain filled his body. The ink was crimson. He was signing with his blood. When he finished, the scroll disappeared. Power filled his body, and the room was gone. He was in the shed, standing, facing the one who had just killed his father, and probably his mama, too. Flynn screamed as a blast of power burst from him. Where the man stood was now a pile of debris. That was the day that Flynn became a warlock. He cleared the village. No survivors. He set off to avenge his family and his life he was robbed of. The lingering feelings of a mistake sits with him, wondering if and when the devil may need him.
The Daggervalds are a tiefling family and have a small farm in Daggerford. They stumbled upon the town by chance generations ago and felt it was fate due to the name. They grow many fruits and vegetables for the town and neighboring villages. Mr. Ermier and Miss Friza didn't make much money, but they weren't living in poverty. They had one daughter, Rixori. Magic hasn't been in the Daggervald family in centuries. Rixori Daggervald started showing signs of having wizard powers at a very young age. She would make many toys out of fallen tree branches as a young girl. She would pretend to slay monsters, which usually were bags of her father's freshly picked potatoes. She ended up learning how to sew because she had ripped so many expensive potato bags. She destroyed many small things around the home with magic. The Daggervalds didn't know how to help her learn. She knew from a young age that she couldn't waste her life picking vegetables. Her mother wanted her to use her sewing skills to make clothing and sheets. She loved her family with all her heart, but she wasn't a farmer nor a tailor. She was a fighter. One evening, in the dead of night, Rixori heard a noise outside of her small bedroom window. Rixori couldn't have been more than 15 years old. She snuck out, kept to the shadows. She saw a jewel. It had managed to make its way into the town undetected. She had to make a quick decision. Does she waste precious time trying to find the guard that had grown lazy in the once peaceful town? Or does she take matters into her own hands? There hadn't been a monster attack in years. No one expected nor had even been trained for these situations anymore. She went into her family's shed as quietly as she could. She grabbed a pitchfork and made her way out in front of the shabby house. She fought the monster by herself. She attacked with poise and force. All those years of lifting heavy bags of vegetables and tilling soil had made her quite muscular for a female. She plunged the pitchfork deep into the jewel's abdomen, injuring it. It had slashed at her, but she danced away with ease. She gave it one last blow, and it went still. To be sure it wasn't going to be getting up, she cast Firebolt and set the beast ablaze. The commotion woke the sleeping town, and everyone came running. The townspeople were thrilled and so thankful for her bravery. They scraped together some gold, and she got a small sword. She continued to slay beasts here and there that had threatened her town and the neighboring villages. Monsters had been attacking more and more as the years went on. She eventually earned herself enough money to buy a better weapon. The second she laid her fingertips on the battle axe, she knew slaying monsters was her true fate. Sarlia grew up in the Great Rift region in the capital city of the Deep Realm known as Underhome. She was raised with her two younger brothers, Emdar and Auric. Her parents, Thorim and Runa, raised her three children, teaching them the family trade of weapon and armor smithing. The Battlebottom family was mostly made up of men. Rarely was a daughter born to the Battlebottom name. Sarlia was highly favored by her grandfather, being the oldest and the first daughter in many generations. While her father was terrified to have a daughter, he taught her the same skills he taught his two sons. She enjoyed the art of smithing. The skill and craftsmanship required came easily to her, which was not a surprise, as her father, grandfather, and many generations further back had worked to build the Battlebottom name to be known for their great smith work. Her brothers were just as skilled, helping carry on the legacy of their family name. Sarlia loved spending time with her brothers. They would carve small figures out of wood and create vast stories using the wooden dolls. Being the oldest, she was very protective of her younger siblings. As they aged, the boys did eventually grow slightly taller and stronger than Sarlia, but she still used her powers of persuasion to keep them from harm. Their mother ensured to teach her children the importance of being kind to others, but also putting family, whether that be blood or chosen, above all else. Runa also pushed her children to keep up on their schooling. She always wanted her children to have a better life than she did, and she believed that achieving that would be for her children to be very educated and incredibly skilled in their family craft. While Sarlia had a knack for the family business, she also had a love for music. When she was a small child, her grandfather gifted her a violin. The violin had been his mother's. Upon her passing, he wished to learn to play, but his duties with the family business always came first. Her grandfather would tell stories of his mother playing simple tunes on the stringed instrument, and Sarlia's eyes would light up whenever he spoke of those times, yearning to let him see the instrument come to life once again as it had in his childhood. Her parents, along with her grandfather, encouraged Sarlia to learn to play her newly gifted violin, and with that, her love of music blossomed. Music came easily to Sarlia, almost as if she were meant to speak in lyrics her whole life. She would split her time between schooling, learning the family trade, and music. After her grandfather took ill, he told her to follow her dreams and not to be held down by the family business. And when he passed, she promised to do exactly that. A short time later, when she was of age, she took her grandfather's advice to venture into the world, leaving behind the family business to pursue her love of music and to see the great beyond. She writes home often to keep her family in the know of her travels and adventures. In her spare time, she works on her smithing craft for coin in villages she travels to, as well as keeping up with her skills in music. Her travels have brought her many friends and allies of all backgrounds, even those of a questionable sort. Again, Sarlia's powers of bardic inspiration have come in clutch, helping her gain friendship with a trustworthy fellow that works in a traditionally unfavorable means. They're a criminal, okay? Her warm and welcoming personality helped her gain more friends than foe, her gift of music wrapping people in a feeling of happiness. Honora Griebel was raised under the mountain in a slave colony ran by an orc named Melag. Honora was taken in to be his personal slave, making him food and running all of his dumb errands. This went on for too many years, as Honora sat by waiting for the perfect opportunity to escape. She was the last of the Griebel family line, as everyone else was worked to death. Honora had a particularly hard day. She went to gather some wood and herbs for a tea to serve Melag. Honora sat upon a rock to meditate to relieve her stress when all of a sudden there was a deep feeling of magic brewing within her, a weird sensation that she had never felt before. Honora opened her eyes, and in front of her were vines. Did I do that? She thought to herself as she stared upon the glowing and moving vines in front of her. This was absolutely something new that had never happened before. Since all of her family and ancestors were gone, Honora didn't know who to turn to about the newfound powers. She just thought she was a normal rock gnome that lived under the mountain. She knew she had a particular connection with nature, but never to the effect of being a druid. She had read about the druids in the ancient texts in the city's library, but they were said to be extinct in this part of the country, being wiped out by the war many, many years ago. Honora knew at this moment she had to leave, had to escape the hellhole that was the slave colony. After her meditation session on the rock, she picked some herbs for a particularly strong sleeping tea. Tonight will be the night that she will escape from under the mountain. She went home and brewed the tea, prayed over it, and fed her magic and energy into it. The new energy that she knew she held deep within. And then she gave it to Melag. He drank the tea and went to bed that night. Honora sat in the corner and watched him drift off into a deep, deep sleep. Deeper than he had ever slept before. Not even the loudest of noises could wake him. She dressed in her darkest clothing and snuck out, grabbing nothing along the way. She kept walking and walking days and days, making nests of vines to sleep in to keep her safe at night. Until one day, she appeared upon a town and stumbled into a tavern, where a strange group of people were sitting in the corner, waiting for her, it seems, to arrive.